I went from daughter to doormat in the blink of an eye. One day, I was nursing my father through his cancer treatment. The next, I was standing on the street with my belongings in trash bags because $50 million had turned Daddy into a monster. He threw me away like yesterday's newspaper. But karma works in mysterious ways, and 3 days later, he was on his knees begging for my help. I was 32 when I learned that money doesn't change people. It reveals who they have always been. For 6 years, I had put my life on hold to care for my father after Mom died. I moved back into my childhood home, postponed my career, and spent countless nights sitting beside his hospital bed during 3 brutal rounds of chemotherapy. I held his hand during the vomiting. I changed his sheets when he couldn't reach the bathroom. I also managed his medications when the pain made him confused. I did it all without complaint because he was my father, my only remaining parent, and I loved him more than anyone else in the world. Or at least I thought I did. The day everything changed was deceptively ordinary. I was making Dad's favorite breakfast, blueberry pancakes with real maple syrup, when I heard him shouting from the living room. I dropped the spatula and ran, terrified he'd fallen or was having a medical emergency. Instead, I found him dancing around the coffee table, waving his phone in the air like a madman. His face, usually gaunt from illness, was flushed with excitement. "Ellie, it happened. It finally happened," he whooped, grabbing my hands and spinning me around. "What happened? Dad, careful, you'll tear your port." I steadied him, concerned about the medical port in his chest for chemotherapy. He pulled away, suddenly standing straighter than I had seen him in years. "I won. The investment paid off. $50 million, baby." I froze, pancake batter drying on my hands. What investment? Dad had never mentioned any significant investments. He had been a middle school science teacher his whole career, living in our small, 3-bedroom house. After Mom died, his medical bills had drained what little savings he had. I had been supporting us both on my meager income as a freelance graphic designer, working from home so I could care for him. "Remember that tech startup I put $5,000 into 10 years ago? They got bought by Google. $50 million. He emphasized each word by jabbing his finger in the air. My initial reaction was pure joy. This meant Dad could afford the experimental treatment his insurance wouldn't cover. It meant I could finally stop worrying about bills piling up. It meant security. "Dad, that's amazing." I hugged him, mindful of his frail body. "Let me finish breakfast and we can celebrate." But as I turned back toward the kitchen, something in his expression shifted. A coldness I had never seen before settled over his features. "Ellie, I've been thinking," he said, his voice businesslike. "It's time for you to move out." I laughed, thinking he was joking. "Right, Dad, let me pack my bags while the pancakes burn." "I'm serious," he said. "I want my house back. I'm tired of having a nurse instead of a daughter." The spatula slipped from my fingers, clattering on the hardwood floor. "What are you talking about? I'm not your nurse. I'm here because you need me." "Well, I don't need you anymore." He crossed his arms, looking at me like I was a stranger. "I've already called a private health service. They'll be here tomorrow. Professional care, not amateur hour." It felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. "Dad, I've been taking care of you for 6 years. I gave up everything." "And I'm sure you'll never let me forget it," he interrupted. "The martyr daughter who sacrificed her life for dear old Dad. Now I can afford real help. Someone who won't make me feel guilty every time she changes a bandage." Tears stung my eyes. "I never made you feel guilty. I wanted to be here." "Whatever helps you sleep at night," he scoffed. "I want you out by tonight. I've got plans, and they don't include having my 30-something daughter cramping my style." My mind raced, trying to make sense of his cruelty. This wasn't the father who taught me to ride a bike, who cried at my college graduation, and who held me when Mom died. This was someone else. "You can't be serious," I whispered. "Dead serious." He pulled out his wallet and tossed $500 bills on the coffee table. "That should get you started. Consider it severance pay." I stared at the money, nausea rising in my throat. "I don't want your money. I want to understand what's happening. You've been sick, Dad. The excitement is gone." "I'm thinking for the first time in years," he said. "I've spent my life being responsible, teaching ungrateful kids, caring for your mother until she died, playing it safe with investments. Now I finally hit the jackpot, and I want to enjoy it without looking at your disappointed face every day." "Disappointed?" I echoed, genuinely confused. "The way you look at me," he spat. "Like I'm pathetic, like I'm a burden. I see it every time you help me to the bathroom or clean up my mess." My heart shattered. "Dad, that's never been what I wanted." "Go, Alina." He turned away, suddenly looking tired. "I'm done explaining myself." In a daze, I packed my belongings. 6 years of my life condensed into 3 suitcases and a handful of garbage bags. Dad stayed in the living room, making calls to financial advisors and real estate agents, planning his new, wealthy life while I dismantled mine. By evening, I was sitting in my car outside the only home I'd ever known, sobbing until my throat was raw. I had nowhere to go. My old apartment had long since been rented to someone else. Most of my friends had drifted away during my years as a caregiver. My career was a patchwork of freelance jobs that covered groceries. I checked into a cheap motel on the outskirts of town, using one of the $100 bills Dad had thrown at me. The room smelled of bleach and cigarettes, but it had a bed and a shower. I lay awake all night, replaying our conversation, searching for signs I'd missed. Had Dad always resented me? Had I somehow failed him without realizing? The next morning, I called my cousin Maya, the only family member I was still close to. She lived 3 states away, but offered her guest room immediately. "Stay as long as you need," she said. "I can't believe Uncle Robert would do this. It's the money. It makes people crazy." "I don't even recognize him anymore," I whispered, my voice hoarse from crying. "Come here," Maya urged. "We'll figure it out together." I was packing my car for the long drive to Maya's when my phone rang. The screen showed my father's face, a photo taken during a rare good day last summer when he'd felt strong enough to sit in the garden. I almost didn't answer, but years of caregiver instinct kicked in. What if something was wrong? "Hello," I answered. "Alina," Dad's voice sounded strained. "I need you to come back." No apology, no explanation, another demand. "Why would I do that?" I asked, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. "There's been a complication with my port. The home health nurse says I need to go to the hospital, but I don't trust these people. I need you." A bitter laugh escaped me. "You fired me, remember? You hired professionals instead." "Ellie, please," he said, his voice softening. "I'm scared." Those 2 words broke my resolve. For 6 years, I'd responded immediately whenever he expressed fear. Cancer is terrifying, and I'd promised Mom I would take care of him. "Call an ambulance," I said finally. "I'll meet you at the hospital." The emergency room was chaotic as usual. I found Dad in a curtained bay, looking smaller and more fragile than he had yesterday. His port, the device implanted in his chest for chemotherapy, had become infected, a dangerous complication for someone with a compromised immune system. "Thank God you're here," he said when he saw me, reaching for my hand. I stayed out of reach. What happened to the professional help? He had the decency to look embarrassed. "They didn't know what to do, not like you." The doctor confirmed that Dad needed the port removed immediately and a course of strong antibiotics. He would require careful wound care and monitoring for at least 2 weeks. "Will you be able to manage this at home?" the doctor asked me, assuming I was still his caregiver. Before I could answer, Dad jumped in. "Of course she will. Ellie's been taking care of me for years. She's better than any nurse." I stared at him in disbelief. Yesterday, I was an amateur he couldn't wait to replace. Today, I was irreplaceable again. "Actually," I said, "Mr. Williams has professional home health care now. I no longer live with him." The doctor looked between us, sensing the tension. "I see. Well, Mr. Williams, we will need to discuss alternative arrangements then, a short stay in a skilled nursing facility." "No," Dad's panicked eyes found mine. "Ellie, please, come home, I need you." 3 simple words, "I need you," that would have melted my resistance days ago, now rang hollow. Where was this need when he was tossing money at me like I was a servant being dismissed? "I'll help coordinate your care," I told him, my voice detached, "but I won't be moving back in." The look of shock on his face was almost comical. He hadn't expected me to refuse. While Dad underwent the procedure to remove his infected port, I sat in the waiting room, turning over a plan in my mind. I wouldn't abandon him to suffer. I wasn't capable of that kind of cruelty. But I also wouldn't return to being his doormat, discarded when convenient and retrieved when necessary. When the doctor came to tell me the procedure was successful, I asked for a private conversation. My father and I have a complicated situation, I explained. He recently came into a large amount of money and decided he wanted to live independently. Yesterday, he asked me to move out immediately. The doctor's eyebrows rose. That's about it, given his condition. I agree. I believe he needs supervision, but I can no longer provide round-the-clock care. I took a deep breath. I would like to discuss options that would ensure his safety while respecting both our boundaries. Together, we developed a plan. Dad would stay in the hospital for 3 days while receiving IV antibiotics. Then, he would transfer to a premium rehabilitation facility for 2 weeks, where he would receive wound care and monitoring. After that, assuming his recovery went well, he could return home with daily visits from a home health service. And what about your involvement? The doctor asked. I'll oversee his care plan and visit, but I won't live with him again, I said. When I presented this plan to Dad, his face contorted with anger. A nursing home? You're putting me in a nursing home, he sputtered. It's a luxury rehabilitation center, I corrected him. Private room, gourmet meals, physical therapy facilities. It costs $1,200 per day, but given your recent windfall, that shouldn't be a problem. I want to go home, he insisted, with you. I shook my head. That's not an option anymore. You made your choice yesterday. I was excited. The money went to my head. You can't hold that against me. I'm not holding it against you, I said. I'm accepting what you showed me about our relationship. Dad switched tactics, his eyes filling with tears. I'm sorry, Ellie, I didn't mean those things. You know how much I love you. 6 years ago, those tears would have destroyed me. Even yesterday, they might have weakened my resolve. But something had shifted inside me. The father I loved was still in there somewhere, but he had revealed a part of himself I couldn't unsee, a part that viewed me as disposable. I love you too, I said. That's why I'm making sure you get excellent care. But I won't put myself in a position to be discarded again when it's convenient for you. The rehabilitation center was as luxurious as promised. Dad had a spacious private suite with a view of the gardens. The staff was attentive and professional. I visited daily, bringing his favorite books and snacks, helping him navigate his new financial reality, and coordinating with his medical team. Each day, he asked when I would stop this nonsense and bring him home. Each day, I reminded him that we had a new arrangement now. On the 5th day of his stay, I arrived to find him meeting with a lawyer, papers spread across his adjustable bed table. What's going on? I asked, setting down the blueberry muffins I had brought him. Dad and the lawyer exchanged glances before Dad spoke. I'm updating my will. A chill ran through me. Despite everything, the thought of losing him still terrified me. Is something wrong? Did the doctor say something? No, he said. But this money changes things. I need to make sure everything is in order. The lawyer gathered his papers. We're finishing up. I'll have these ready for your signature tomorrow, Mr. Williams. After he left, Dad picked at his muffin without meeting my eyes. I'm leaving everything to you, he said finally. The money, the house, all of it. I sat down. Dad, you don't have to. Yes, I do, he interrupted. I've been a fool, worse than a fool. I've been cruel to the one person who never gave up on me. I stayed silent, watching him struggle with his emotions. When your mother died, I wanted to follow her, he continued. The only reason I fought through the treatments was that I couldn't bear to leave you alone. Then, somewhere along the way, I started resenting you for being the reason I had to endure all this pain. Dad, let me finish, he pleaded. When I got the news about the money, something snapped. I had a future again, travel, comfort, maybe even dating. And there you were, this beautiful young woman who'd put her life on hold for a bitter old man. I convinced myself you resented me as much as I resented myself. Tears slid down my cheeks. I never resented you. I know that now, he whispered. The moment you walked out, I knew, but pride kept me from calling you back until I had a legitimate emergency. We sat in silence, the weight of 6 years and $50 million hanging between us. I don't want your money, I said finally. And I don't want your guilty conscience. I want my dad back, the one who saw me as his daughter, not his nurse or his burden. He reached for my hand, and this time I let him take it. I'm still him, he said, under all the fear and selfishness. If you give me another chance, I'll prove it to you. I squeezed his hand. We'll figure it out, but things will be different now. And they were. After Dad completed his rehabilitation, he returned home with daily nurse visits. I found an apartment nearby, not too close, not too far, and established clear boundaries. I was his daughter, not his caregiver. We had dinner together twice a week. I helped him interview financial advisors and estate planners. He funded a scholarship in Mom's name at the school where he'd taught for 30 years. The money did change him, but not entirely in the ways I'd feared. Once the initial shock wore off, it amplified parts of his personality that had been dormant during his illness. His generosity returned. He anonymously paid off medical debts for families at his hospital. His sense of adventure reawakened. He took a cruise to Alaska, something he and Mom had always dreamed of doing. 6 months after the incident, as we came to call it, Dad invited me to dinner at an upscale restaurant I could never have afforded on my own. He seemed nervous, fidgeting with his water glass and checking his phone repeatedly. "Is everything okay?" I asked. "I have something for you," he said, sliding a thick envelope across the table. Inside was a deed to a small house in my favorite neighborhood, paid in full, along with documents establishing a trust in my name. "Dad, I told you I don't want your money," I protested. "It's not about the money," he said. "It's about security. I never want you to feel trapped again, by circumstances or by me." I started to object, but he held up his hand. "When you moved back home to care for me, you gave up your apartment, your savings, and parts of your career. That wasn't fair. This isn't guilt money, it's restitution." I ran my fingers over the deed. The house was perfect, a 1920s bungalow with a studio space for my graphic design work and a garden out back. "There's no obligation attached," Dad continued. "You can sell it and use the money for something else. You can rent it out and never set foot in it. It's yours, free and clear." I looked at him. The father who taught me to ride a bike was there in his eyes. So was the man who'd thrown money at me like I was nothing. Both were part of him, as my capacity to care and my newfound ability to set boundaries were part of me. "Thank you," I said finally. "I will think about it." 3 years have passed since that day. Dad's cancer returned more aggressively this time. The $50 million couldn't change that medical reality. He chose to forego further treatment, focusing instead on the quality of life in the time he had left. I didn't move back in with him, but I did oversee his care team and spend most days at his house. This time, it was my choice made, with clear boundaries and professional support. We talked more than we ever had before about Mom, about his illness, and about the day he'd thrown me out. "It was the worst mistake of my life," he admitted one evening as we watched the sunset from his porch. "But in a strange way, it might have saved us both." I knew what he meant. Before, our relationship had been built on obligation and unspoken resentments. Now, it was founded on choice and brutal honesty. Dad died last month, with me holding his hand. He left behind complicated emotions and $50 million, most of which will go to cancer research and education funds for caregivers. I kept the house he bought me and enough money to ensure I never have to choose between my well-being and caring for someone I love. Some might say I forgave too, that his money bought my return to his life. But they would be missing the point. What changed wasn't the number in his bank account, it was the recognition that relationships can't be transactional. They can't be discarded when inconvenient and reclaimed when necessary. The greatest revenge against someone who treated you as disposable isn't to discard them in return. It's to reclaim your worth and rewrite the terms of engagement. It's to love rather than out of obligation. It's to help because you choose to, not because you must. I miss my dad every day, the real him, complicated and flawed and human. The $50 million didn't make him a monster. It gave him the illusion that connections could be bought and sold like commodities. In the end, he learned what I did, that true wealth lies in relationships built on respect, honesty, and mutual care. Have you ever had someone treat you as disposable until they needed you again? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about family relationships and finding your worth.